Um, it's so wonderful to talk after two really good friends. And like I said, it feels good. You know, I've known Javier when I started my company, and he was more or less starting his. And I remember sitting and talking. We were like two crazy people talking someone else's language. Everyone looked at us as this, what are you talking about? And we are still having the same conversation, which is wonderful. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting us. And to answer your question about how do you change the world, you change it one person at a time. If you can change one, if one of you will walk out of here changed, we've achieved our purpose. So I think it's about that. So my story is my love story. I was lucky enough that I ran away from home at 16, and the first job I was given was a job that I was not at all interested in, which was fashion, because I wanted to be Che, I wanted to change the world. And a girl out of India trying to be Che Guevara doesn't quite cut the mustard. My parents weren't too happy about that. And so as I left home, the first job I got was in fashion, because you needed very little skill. At that point, I spoke 3 languages, so it was perfect. And it just turns out that someone opened a door, and I was lucky enough to actually find something I absolutely love. And it's true that when they say that if you work with what you love, you will never work, and that has really been my case. I've been lucky about that. So life was wonderful. I've lived all across the world. I've done different kinds of jobs, all in fashion. I participated in a large part in what was the outsourcing. So I was working in a company in Hong Kong, which I later on bought. And we were doing a lot of production for major companies that were moving production out of West. So I have seen what the fast fashion industry has done here, as well as what it's done in the Far East. And to me, it was devastating. I made a lot of money at a very young age. I sold my company at the age of 23 and could possibly have retired for a year. Didn't realize that money runs out quite fast. And had to get back to work, because at 25 felt, okay, I need to go back and make a living again. And at a point I realized that I wanted to work changing the system backwards. So I moved to Europe. I came to Spain. The year was 2000. It was a perfect moment to enter Spain. Spain was rising. It just entered the European Union. And I had a lot of skill that I knew where to get incredibly handmade product out of, made it locally, and it worked beautifully. Like a lot of people, really well. I was lucky. In less than 7 years, we're selling in over 350 stores around the world, and I was happy. And I bought myself a little shop in the center of Madrid, my dream store. So all my dreams were coming true. So it was true. You worked hard, and your dreams would come true. So it was really cool. And then, the year I bought my shop, which was the year 2008, July, I went on a holiday, and I came back, and the world collapsed. And my banker called me and said, we've got a problem. Lehman Brothers has just, exploded. We've got to cut down all your finances. And to me, who didn't know anything about what finance was or what Lehman Brothers was, I knew how to make clothes, I knew how to sell clothes, and that's what I had done. So for me, it was a world-changing event, because I suddenly realized it didn't matter what I did and how well I did it. I lived in a world and an economy that would affect me, so I had to be aware of it. And that is the one moment that I sort of had a sense of what symbiosis is. You could do whatever you want. I was an individualistic. I had a 16-year-old running away from home. I thought I could change the world, do everything I wanted. It was in my hand, and then I realized it wasn't. And that was a really humbling lesson. And so here I am in the 2008. I've just taken all the money I had in my bank and bought a building, which wasn't the smartest thing to do, a retail building when retail was going down. And here I was trying to sell my goods. And everyone said to me, oh, Kavita, you've come from, you're from India. The future is low cost. The future is making cheap product. Why don't you take your collection and make it cheap? Look at, all these amazing studies about fast fashion. You know how to do this. You've got to do this. So I sort of had a moment of doubt. I went back to India on a trip. I knew what that had done. I knew the devastating effects. I had seen it for myself. I didn't need Greenpeace to tell me. The rivers, I had seen them myself. The cities abandoned, I'd seen them myself. So in that moment, I re-encountered with a book that I was given when I was 16, which was My Experiments with Truth by Gandhi. And it's a great book to read, because it's about your struggle with what it is that you want to do. And I think that sort of changed my perspective, and I thought, I have a unique point of view. I've gone through the system backwards. I started working at a factory and then working my way up. I think I could do something. I could maybe fix the system. And so, you know, as I've always been optimistic, I decided I was going to rewrite the system. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 7 years. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it. I'm going to go very quickly through the first part because I think both Sas and Javier have done a great job of explaining to you what it is. Our industry is in a crisis, and that's a fact. No one has to. I mean, you can see all the issues that are. Before, you'd go get a shirt made. You knew the tailor who'd make it for you. You'd go pick the fabric. There are no human beings of the same size. It's a lie. The size of the industrial revolution, what a shame, what damage that has done to us, as Sas was pointing out, and that people walk in and think they're a specific size. There is no cookie cutter in the mother's womb. I have never come across two bodies that are exactly the same. Loss of artisanship, which has happened all over Europe, all over even Southeast Asia. Today I'm wearing a piece that my dear friend Marcela gave me 3 years ago. And I spent 3 years trying to find this fabric. It's mud silk from the South China, and it's dyed with yam, painted with the clay from the ocean, which gives it this, from the river, which gives us this amazing, and now you can't find it in China because they've copied it and they've done an industrial version of it, and the people who make it cannot afford to continue making it. So it's down to one little community that still makes it. So stories like that everywhere. And of course, I'm not going to bore you with the environmental issues. What has become with fashion, which was a beautiful language, because fashion is a language. You know, all through humanity, we've used fashion to express ourselves, express the moment we lived in. If you look at what happened in the 20s, the way women dressed, it was about the liberation of the woman. No? We took away our corsets and we were dressing differently. In the 70s, in the environmental revolution, you saw how people started to do tie-dye. We've always used fashion to express what we were living at that moment. But in the last 20, 30 years, fashion's just been on a repetitive, as if we've been told what to say. So you look at the magazines, and the 70s are back again, the 80s are back again, the 90s, the 70s, the 80s, the 60s. We just carry on back. It's as if we have nothing to say about the moment that we're living. And we are living the most exciting moment of time. We're living as if someone had just invented the flight. That's what's happening right now in society. And we are not expressing it through our clothes. It's as if someone had put a gag on our mouths, right? We all dress the same, doesn't matter where you go. And at the end of the day, it's become a race to the bottom. Even the questioning of what things cost. I mean, to think about the fact that something that grows from the earth, and it takes time for it to grow, you harvest, you spin, you make the fabric, you cut, you sew, you pack it, you ship it across the world, comes to the most expensive store in the middle of the most expensive street, and it's $2.99 and no one questions it. So we've become these spoiled people who don't understand what price is about, right? So it's a race to the bottom, and as most races to the bottom, I mean, it's very hard to get to them. We've got a lot of choice. It's true, everyone talks about that, right? The democratization of fashion. Wow. We have so much more choice than our grandmothers. But at the same time, the people who are in the best jobs were not happy. Why is that happening? Why is it that people whose jobs I would have loved to have were not happy with what they were doing? Because maybe we were not doing what we were supposed to do. And then, of course, me living in Europe, what I noticed was all the factories shutting down. And they weren't shutting down because they weren't investing in R&D. They were shutting down because their bowl of rice costs more than the bowl of rice somewhere else in the world. So basically, we'd reinvented slavery, by another word, right? We were just going out there to find the cheapest slave who could make our product. And then, of course, what we had exported to me, which everyone said, oh my God, you know, but it's so good that people in Bangladesh have a job. That's such a, it's just such a first world privilege, excuse my French, bullshit to say. Let me tell you that people in the Far East worked before we got there to make $2 t-shirts from them. So what did we do, basically? We gave up jobs we don't want. We didn't want to see the trash next to our house. We didn't want to have the hard work. We just shipped it across so someone else somewhere else would do our dirty work for us. This is a picture I love to show. So a lot of people talk about, oh, the future is about sharing, the sharing economy. So you've got a whole bunch of people here who don't own anything. So this is actually a photograph of the unused bicycles in China. A company that has shut down, and they've basically just left. They don't belong to anyone. So it was a state-funded company, and they just left them there. There they are. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have done here in the West, if they repeat it at the same level there, we are in for a huge problem. I mean, we have to beg on our knees that they do not repeat the mistakes that we have done here. So that is, to me, the biggest challenge that we have right now. We've depleted our, natural resources. Apparently, by the month of August, we've already used up all the resources of the Earth. And like Javier said, even though Mr. Musk is very, very positive about going to Mars, I don't see that happening in the next 20 years, and we've got to worry about this. Let's not argue whether fashion is the second most polluting industry or the fifth most producing. Fashion pollutes. And we all are involved in fashion. We all wear clothes. I don't know anyone who walks around naked still. And then there's this other problem, which we high fashion people do, right? We're inspired by, so we go, we travel to these exotic locations, we find beautiful stuff, we copy it, and we sell it, and sometimes not even because we're low cost, sometimes just that the model is so fast that we don't have time to work with artisan communities. So we just take from them, put it up there, sell it to you, move on to the next artisan community. And at the end of it, what are we doing? We're destroying their local goods as well, because obviously we've now made it either fashionable or not fashionable, and they can't do anything to fight that, because obviously they don't have an intellectual property about it. Same, what have we done at the end of all of this? We've created, here we are, us monsters who don't think there's anything wrong with using and throwing things away. So to me, that is our big problem that we need to solve. It's our own addiction to this situation. And the other thing that bothers me a lot personally, because I grew up a nomad, I've lived in many different places in the world, and one of the things that really bothers me today is it doesn't matter where I go, which airport I'm at, which city I'm at. If I don't have a lot of money, I've got Primark, H&M, Zara, whatever on the left side. And if I have some, then I have the same brand on the other side. And it doesn't matter where I go, whether I'm in Denpasar or Delhi or Brazil or New York, they all look exactly the same. In Spain, I was involved in a study. 20 companies own 80% of retail. 20 companies, which, by the way, are actually owned by 5 conglomerates. So it's crazy when you think about what this is doing. We've ended up being a monopoly as an industry, which is ridiculous, because about 150 years ago, we were the most distributed industry there was. And then, of course, this. The elephant in the room that no one talks about. Let's talk about the immigrants. Let's talk about someone else taking a problem. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the reality. We are right now living the most exciting moment in history in terms of technology. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics. It's an amazing time. I saw a robot that can make 3,000 T-shirts in 3 hours. Let me tell you, there is no slave anywhere in the world that can compete with that. So bye-bye to the factories in Ethiopia. We will be making the T-shirts right down here in downtown Miami, I'm sure, soon enough. So what will happen to all of these people? Are they all going to get retrained and become coders and tech experts? I don't think so. I think we've got a serious problem which in the next 20 years as humanity we need to consider and look at and see what are we going to do with this amazing gift that we have in our hands. So of course, like I said, I'm an optimist. And to me, I bought that. That was a guy in Australia making this the old-fashioned way. And so I bought this and I put it up in my room because I was at a very, very low part in the year 2010 and not knowing what to do, what the future held for me, with no money nearly in the bank, and trying to figure out. And I figured, okay, it's me. I have to get into the engine room and I have to get involved and do this from the beginning. So I walked around and talked about my business idea to a lot of people, and everyone said, I don't think anyone's going to be interested. So what did I do? I figured if there's a problem, it means it needs to be solved. It means it's an opportunity, and that's what I'm going to try to do. So looking back to where we were coming from, which is the Industrial Revolution, where work was going to be basically end up in quantity. The way we measured work, the way we measured output was in quantity of things. And even the quality of life was measured by quantity of things. How many houses you had, how many yachts you had, how many whatever you had. It was about the quantity. And I think the good news is we're going to another time. And this time, maybe we have tools to measure quality. right? We have more information at our hands. I get amazed when I travel around the globe, or whether I'm in Africa or in India, where in the middle of nowhere, you have a young person who has a phone and has access to the Wikipedia. That, to me, is a game changer. So I think I felt that there was a possibility that we could change the way we measured things. Also, we were, talking to a lot of friends who worked in social networks and who worked in tech industry, who were looking at trends. And that was, to me, very interesting. I've always been very, I don't know much about tech. I don't know anything. I live with someone who's a engineer, but I'm fascinated by it. And I think it's such an empowering tool because I've seen what it's done to people in very, very remote areas. So, and from what I could see, there was a huge change. I know people today who I talk to who've never known what the phone was. They've never actually called anyone, who've never actually been without the internet, which is mind-blowing. You see, I grew up before that. I just told you how old I am. Okay. So the market's also changing. Here we have an opportunity to actually get to market in a very different way, instead of just going through the channel of distribution. So I felt that if we could maybe use those two tools, we'd come up with something interesting. So my idea was to go talk to the consumer directly. I wanted to speak to you one-on-one, and I wanted to talk to you. And maybe in some way, I came up with this word, decommoditize what you were buying. If you knew the name of the person who made this, if you knew the time it took for them to make it, your relationship with this changes. You now own a story. And human beings, as just the way we are, we're storytellers. So what we decided to do is, I felt that there was a skill set that already existed in society. I didn't have to convert a lot of people and train them with new skills. There was this amazing skill set that was there. How could I use that skill set with this new technology and make it shine? So we traveled around the globe to find incredible stories of heritage craftspeople that we could work with who didn't have direct access to market. I always put up this as a great example of Harris Tweed being one of the best craft stories ever told, because it was taken care of in 1933. The government of England gave them a seal which only people who can weave by hand in the Isle of Harris as an independent weaver could put that logo, and that saved that island. And today a Harris Tweed weaver makes anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 euros a month. A lot of young people coming out of university would love to do that, and they don't even know they have the alternative to be a weaver. I started with Madras, India. Why? Because whenever I've been involved in projects with artisans, it's all kind of, how cute is that? But is that really scalable? That looks nice. That's for rich women in Barneys. That's not really future. So I went to what I knew as the largest, biggest cooperative that I had heard of. There's 250,000 weavers still weaving in South India. It's a cooperative that was formed by Mahatma Gandhi in 1927. And so I went to them and I convinced them to become part of what we were trying to do. We decided we're going to get the fabric from India, because in India they know how to make fabric. They wear fabric. They don't wear a jacket, so they could probably copy a jacket, but that's not what they make. So we brought the fabric to the best ateliers in Europe. When I go to an Italian, when I go to a Portuguese, or when I go to my Spanish shoemaker who makes my shoes, they know how to do this. They wear this stuff. So as a designer, they just add value back to me. They show me how to make things. I can only make it probably aesthetically, more culturally relevant. So what we did, which was interesting, is we built technology that every piece came with a code which you could scan, and you could get to see something like this, which is you get to see who the weaver was who made your fabric, and you get to see who the person is who made your piece, and then you would put up your picture as a customer so they could see who had bought this. And it wasn't poverty porn that I was trying to sell. It wasn't about, oh, help that poor guy. Quite the reverse. It was about, wow, thank you for that incredible work that you did. Because as human beings, we all need a pat on the back, and that's what, to me, was missing from the artisan communities. What was amazing as well was, once they got identity, once they got authorship, it's just the way they looked at their own work and the way they perceived themselves changed dramatically. So this is what you see on an IOU website. When you get a piece, you can see its entire story. And you click on any of them, you can get to see them. We've got customers who've gone to India and met with their weavers, or who've been in Italy and gone to see the atelier where we're producing. And then as a customer, you tell your story as well and you share. we decided not to do any social, we had no money left, to be honest. So we didn't even do any marketing. Our marketing was done by our clients. Our clients shared our story, and that it took it to the next level, where what we realized that transparency does is that it gives shared responsibility. So it's not that the guy in China who's working in a factory in Bangladesh doesn't realize when he's throwing, dirty chemicals into the water. It's just that he's so burnt with his job that he doesn't give a damn. He's getting paid so little that he couldn't care less. The minute we realized that the weaver knew that his name was coming out, it's a great story that I always tell. The third shipment that came from India, and we get everything by containers. I tried to minimize the footprint and by sea containers, and it was taking a long time, and the area that I work has a lot of cyclone issues. And so I got worried. I called and I said, what's going on? And they said, well, Kavita, they're taking longer because they see their picture comes up, which is mind-blowing, because you have to understand, even though I pay them more than what they would normally make, it's just not a lot of money even then. And that they were taking longer to make the product is because of the pride they had, because someone had allowed them to sign their piece of work. Well, I didn't really want to start a brand. I wanted to start a platform which I would allow other companies to do what I think had to be done in the industry. So I actually didn't even present it as a brand. I made the traceability platform, and I went and knocked on lots of doors in the high-end luxury industry, telling them, wouldn't it be great if we do this? This would be amazing. And to my shock and surprise, no one gave a damn. And I was really frustrated, and as you can tell by now, I don't take no for an answer quite easily. I came back and I made my brand, and I showed people that it could be done, because I was told repeatedly, this is not scalable, it can't be done. In the year 2011, when our brand started, I started a hashtag, Who Made My Clothes? Rana Plaza hadn't happened then. I felt, having lived in so many different parts of the world, and to define myself as where am I from? Right now I'm a Madrileña. But like I said, right now, it's so hard for me to define myself in nation states and in all these ideas that we have from the 14th century. I felt the important part was who I was and what that I was about. And so it was about the person. It wasn't about the place. It wasn't about the country. It wasn't the company. It was the person. It was the individual that mattered. And for the first time, technology allowed the individual to have a voice, and that's what we should talk about. Of course, unfortunately, the hashtag made it around, but it was only after Rana Plaza that it got taken into and was turned into a revolution, as Carrie, who started a fashion revolution, really bravely took on and did an amazing job with. You'll hear from her tomorrow. There's a 3-minute video. I don't know if you guys have time. I love it. This was my fashion. This is my photo shoot, so I'd love to play it for you guys. that was kind of like the first conversation we sent out into the world, and the video got incredible. I wrote to over 600 blogs around the globe, just personal notes and about what I was trying to do, and there was no photo shoots, there was no language that we normally use in fashion. It was just that, and then my little idea about what I thought we could do, and the results were amazing. I mean, we got written about all over the world. We've been lucky enough to be awarded all kinds of awards around the globe. I've been working with brands like Nike, Levi's, who are interested in what we're doing and want to try and apply it to their companies. And so it's been an incredible, incredible journey, and all because of the internet. All because of this amazing tool that we have today, that a little company out of Madrid can actually be talking about this globally. Something I just started with a little bit, whatever I had left, and just a lot of passion could go so far. We collaborated also with lots of brands and learned so much. We wanted the collaboration to be real. When you see H&M collaborating with a big designer, what are they saying? You know, I take great design and make it cheap. What's the point? Aren't we all supposed to make things better? So our idea was my friend Sam and Shaka from Art Comes First do amazing tailored clothing. I didn't know much about Salvador tailoring. They taught me about tailoring. I taught them about artisanal fabrics. It was an amazing, beautiful, symbiotic relationship. So this is what the IOU product line looks like. This is what we sell in stores in Japan, around the globe. And then online, we only sell the madras because it's kind of hard to sell a $300 jacket made out of yak wool online. So I sell the madras, which is a more price conscious. And this we sell through the multi-channel, through wholesale. What have we done? We've made, every single piece that you see there is handmade. The last jacket is from the wool from the pastores que transhumancia, which is transhumance is a way of sheep breeding, sheep rearing, which is traditional to Spain. Merino is a Spanish wool, and there is no more merino made in Spain. It all comes from New Zealand. The unfortunate part is in New Zealand and Australia, it's all done on an industrial scale. In fact, they do something as horrible as musing, which is they cut off the tail of the sheep so that they can rear, basically shear them with machines faster. So you've got a gaping hole in the animal just so that you can do this. I mean, as human beings, we are incredibly capable of incredible cruelty. So we work with the shepherds in the Leon area who still do the transhumance, and we take their wool and we turn it into fiber and make it. We've had to build the entire supply chain because it didn't exist in Spain. So things like that we're passionate about. So why am I coming and talking to you? I'm not done yet. I wasn't here to start a brand of clothing. I want to change the world. And I'm not done because I still have a lot of way to go, and I've been talking about this from the day I started. I think we could build a Wikipedia of artisans, and I think that's what we need to do, because I believe that this idea of nations that's dividing us all up is ridiculous and old-fashioned and makes no sense. This is our world, and we've got to figure out all the problems ourselves. When Javier goes to Thailand, it's got the same problem as he has in the Mediterranean. It doesn't matter what we do in Spain. If there's somebody in Morocco doing it differently, we don't get any better. This is our Earth, this is our planet. We've got to work on this together. And the interesting part to me right now is that we could probably take this incredible skill set that right now is off the industry, right? The industry is not using it. These are people who know their shit. They know how to do amazing quality work. And we could incorporate them into a beautiful, incredible supply chain. And they could actually participate, and I called it the prosperity chain. It's about not just the money, it's about the recognition, the pride, the trying to save things, right? We could allow them to participate as individuals where they were not able to do before. And that way have fair play. It's not somebody buying their product very cheap and then selling it expensive. We can preserve cultural heritage and stories, which is who we are, where we're coming from. These are stories of our past, and it's important we have them for the future. We could preserve provenance, which is fundamental. Nobody would buy a bottle of wine that has La Rioja made in China, right? Because we all know there's a reason. There's a place called Rioja, and that's where cotton is exactly the same way. It's an agricultural product. It's exactly so many different types of cotton as there are different types of grape in the world. And one of the problems with cotton and that it being so aggressive is because of the monoculture of cotton. Because of major corporations wanting to just grow one kind of cotton, it needs so much more water. Whereas in Brazil, there's a cotton that's done by rain harvesting, which is amazing. So there is so many things that we still need to look back from the past and preserve. So here's the dream, you know, maybe we could build, like, look at all these companies that we all use right now. How are they built? Like, maybe we don't have to set up a factory. Maybe all of these artisans could be part of this huge factory because we have the internet to put it all together. Just in India alone, the richness of arts and crafts is mind-blowing. And Latin America, it's just an incredible resource waiting to be harvested. And then I thought, what if we designers, we're the only people who are in the creative industry, and we don't actually get our work gets copied, and we don't get anything for it. I mean, today, everyone's copying the Saint Laurent jacket from the 70s, and Saint Laurent doesn't get anything. Every time you listen to Hey Jude, Sir Paul McCartney gets a little bit of money. What if we could just digitize our product and put it online? I've got a skirt from Dries from the early 2000 that they're not making anymore. What if I could download the pattern, get a local artisan to sell me the fabric, and get, with an Uber-like app, find a local craftsman to cut and sew it for me, and I have something and everybody makes money. All I'm telling you, the technology already exists. If the pharmaceutical industry, that is the most industrialized of all beasts, is actually thinking about giving you medicine per person, can we not, the textile industry, think of doing something completely different? Or think about how it would solve the problem of excess. I mean, we throw out 30% of product every year. We make too much product in hopes to sell. Then we can try and convince you, paying influencers to put it out there, fight with each other, then reduce the price points, so then we have to bulk up the prices to begin with. It's not logical. So why are we continuing doing that? What if we just do it another way? We've got the opportunity to build. This is a beautiful story. So a lot of people tell me, oh, the world's not ready for this. So, someone wrote to me on Facebook in a messenger message, hey, mom, really bad English. I'm from India, and I'd love to connect with you. It's a young man, so, you get a lot of those from India sometimes. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I didn't answer that for a bit. And about 2 weeks later, very insistent, you could tell the guy had gone to Google Translate and wrote me a long note saying he's a young guy, and his dad is a 5th-generation weaver in the Kutch area, which is one of the most remotest areas of India. It's between India and Pakistan, and that he's won a lot of awards, but he cannot survive because no one pays him the right price. And that picture that you see in the middle, that's the picture that young boy with his whatever phone, Samsung, whatever he had, sent me that picture. That's the quality of picture that young boy took, 16 years old, trying to get me to work with his dad. I've never been to the Kutch. I made that T-shirt and we sold it in Japan. That's the power of the internet. That is something that we can do today. And be unique, and wear things different, and express who we are. Why should we all dress the same? We are not all the same. We're not all the same size. We all think differently. And diversity of opinion and diversity of who we are makes the conversation much richer. And that is sort of the dream. I always tell this story, which I love Mark Twain, this man who writes about food, and he tells a story about why there's a problem with potatoes. He says that McDonald's uses a specific potato called russet Burbank potato, and it's apparently very long and gives you the beautiful bouquet that comes out of their photo. And so basically, wherever they've gone in the world, they've taken that potato and planted it everywhere. Now, the problem with that potato is, one, it's very specific to a certain area of Idaho. So obviously, when it grows somewhere else, it needs a lot of pesticides. So imagine when actually they grow this potato anywhere, when they put the pesticides into it, 5 days the farmers cannot go out into the field. After it's been recollected, they put it into these huge hangars, size of football fields, and leave it there for a week so that the chemicals can leave. And after that, it's fried and served up all the way. The other photo is potatoes from South America. There's a gazillion of them, and they're beautiful. And they're not perfect, but they're beautiful. And so why are we not eating that incredible diversity? Why are we insisting on something that looks good in a picture but has a really ugly story behind? So here is the thing, all of us. If we can just buy less, buy better, know who we're buying from, support the person, I promise you, if all of you stop buying clothes today, you would not be naked for another 2 years. So don't worry, take your time, find the right people, do the research. There is an internet. Do the work. Don't be lazy. Don't go by certifications. Ask the questions. Take charge. And we can change. Trust me. There's an amazing story that I was reading about Slavery was one of the largest industries in the world at one point. It gave so much wealth and so much work to a lot of people. And a group of 15 people in England started a movement without the internet, and in 10 years, the anti-slavery laws were put in place and slavery was abolished. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the internet. We could do this a lot faster. Thank you.
Me too. Freezing. It's very cold here. Please. This is for you. Hola. This is for me. Hola, hola. Bueno, wow. How much energy. I love that. I love your energy and your passion. No, I think that's very important to have a passion to believe. You believe in yourself. You believe in your ideas, and you work hard for it. No.
Well, I think most of us, where we believe it's just that the system has been built for you to not have faith in yourself, and that there's other
that make you a little nervous, no?
Yeah,
the system.
Exactly. So to me, it's about just having that faith in yourself. And today, we've got all of us the phones and on the social media to get our voices out there. Let's just not retweet. Let's think and let's write original thoughts, because they are listening. If Cambridge Analytica has proved one thing, is these dudes are listening to us. Let's give them what we want to hear, what we want them to hear. I think we've got that opportunity. So just, it's exciting times.
Yeah, I'm sure. Bueno, who wants to make any questions? Yes. Can we bring the microphone, please? Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have met you today and to meet all of these. I came from studying chemistry, and I walked by, and I'm a STEM major, and I came in and I'm like interested in fashion, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Let me see if I like it. And I ended up staying and liking it a lot. Well, that was my little background. But like my question is, knowing that there's kind of two sides to having like a winner and a loser kind of thing, where right now, if it keeps on continuing as you want it to be, you guys would be the winner, and then the people that are doing machines and have been doing it this way will be the losers. But we shouldn't think of people as people that have advantages and disadvantages, or winners or losers. So my question is, finally, what would you say would be an alternative to having that, an advantage and a disadvantage? I'd like to see, since we're all people, that all of us win, even though it might not be possible all the time.
I love it. A utopian chemist. The world has a future, girl. That's good. I don't think of people as winners and losers. I don't think of them and us. I'm quite aware of us as an entity, of we. And maybe it's also my upbringing, Hinduism, Buddhism, and now quantum physics will tell you that there is no us.
Like
there's
this.
no you and me. There's just we.
Excuse me. Talk to like this.
Okay.
There you go.
And so to me, it's, human beings are quite amazing. We have the ability to change. And we've proved that over and over again. So I'm not worried about the guys who are in the old system. I think they'll all change really quickly. I promise you, and I say that in Spain a lot, if a lot of our young people were to walk into one of these big stores and say, hey, where's the stuff that's made like this? 5 days later, that information will go to the head office and they will change, because they're listening to you. They're listening to what their customer wants. For the first time, they're not shoving things only down your throat. They're actually wanting to collect data from you. To me, that's a positive thing. But let's just be honest and tell them what we really think and what we really believe in. Let's just not just retweet the old pictures, the old bullshit. Let's just actually work on ourselves. But of course, what I'm asking for is hard work. I'm asking for people to think. I'm asking for people to sit down and write original thoughts, which is hard work. And what's happened is that we've all become quite lazy. And we just want sustainability to be put in a nice little package and given to us at the counter so we can buy it and feel good about it. And that ain't going to happen. We're going to have to all work together to have it happen. So there is no company that's going to sell you a sustainable product. Sustainability is a dialogue that we all have to have. So I don't think there's any them and us. I think it's about all of us working together. And that's the reason why I do a lot of consulting work with major corporations who technically would be them, but I don't consider it that way.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kavita? Please.
A lot of people today.
Yes.
Yeah.
You convince us all. I just want to know what happened because you say that you didn't want to have your own brand, no? You create the platform. You want to tell everyone. Nobody wanted. You didn't convince it. So then you create your brand. And what's happened? Did you go back and say, "You see, I told you"?
You know, I try not to go back as much as I can. It just was a point to prove. I think our industry, even though it's such an avant-garde looking industry, you know, it seems like super changing all the time. But the truth is it's an old, clunky industry. Yeah. It is very hard to change. I mean, if you look at so many industries that have changed, you look at the way we consume entertainment today. Did anyone think the biggest entertainment producers and watch was going to be YouTube? You guys were going to be the producers of TV series and then watch them yourself, and look how quickly that happened. Or even the music industry, the way we listen to music. We download stuff in a very different way. We share things with Patreon, the way we support artists, very different. Yeah. Whereas in the clothing industry, it's a much more vertically integrated, clunky industry. So there's a huge potential for change. But of course, as all things change will never come from the top and it'll never come from the status quo. It has to come from us.
From us, yeah.
So if we start consuming in a small way, make sure you buy from someone who's small, well, you know where the money is going. You're supporting that is much better. That's how change is going to happen.
Yeah. I think that we have to all get involved, no, in what we believe and we want to change. Yes, please.
Okay. They told me to stand up. So, well, first of all, thank you very much. Your presentation has been super inspiring. I'm really into what you are talking about. My background, so I used to be a buyer at a big fast fashion retailer back home in Spain. And it wasn't for me, so I had to stop. And now I'm doing something different, more in line with what you are doing. And I really like the part of your conversation that was about uniqueness and people seeking to be unique. But what I'm struggling with is the fact that what I'm seeing around me nowadays is that everybody or every 18-year-old wants to be like Kim Kardashian or wants to wear what she's wearing. So how do you deal with that?
Okay, let's be honest. We talk about, now the 18-year-olds, when we were 18, we were the same. Come on, we all wanted to be punks and we all wanted, 18-year-old, you go through that phase. So it's not unique to this moment. There were other people back then that were like that. What I think is interesting about now is, one, I always tell people who are starting out like you and me to have patience. This is not going to happen quickly. So please be patient. You've got to take another job, do that. You've got to do other stuff on the side, do that. This is going to take a while. Changing the world is a long-term vision. It's long-term. It's not going to happen quick. The other thing that I always talk about is, the interesting part about the internet is, before, if you were a crazy person in your village, you'd have to probably shoot yourself or go somewhere else. Today, you can, by the internet, connect yourself to about 10,000 crazy people around the globe and make a sustainable business out of it. Now, this whole idea of what success looks like, that it has to be that you are a billionaire. I want to be a billionaire, but I don't want to have $1 billion in my account. I want to touch the lives of 1 billion people. That's the kind of billionaire I want to be. So it's about quality and not quantity. So if you can convince yourself of that, what am I gaining? Quality of my life. I love what I do. I wake up in the morning, I'm charged up. I want to do things. And it's about just affecting one person every day, and with that, you're done. And you're going to be amazing. So be patient. Don't worry about the 18-year-old who's excited with Kim right now. She'll change, trust me, we all do. If I look at my pictures back in the 90s, it's scary. So don't worry about it. Your audience is out there. Be honest, be authentic, and be consistent.
Thank you. Do we have any question? Yes. Microphone here, please.
Thank you. I love a lot of your speech, a lot of what you talked about today, but I love the idea of the artisan Wikipedia.
Thank
And
you. I've been talking about it for
just-
7 years.
Yes. So yeah.
I'm hoping someone copies me and has it done quickly. Someone called Google. Someone called someone with money to make it happen.
Cool. So this is not happening yet, I guess, but yeah, like I just want to.
I've gotten to 253 artisans.
Okay. I just want to see how I can collaborate with you in that, because that's like my passion, and I don't know, whatever you need.
Thank you. That's
I'll
kind.
just help you.
Great. This is what it's all about, no? It's about people who believe and trust and be part. We all have to be part of the change.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any questions? Yeah. Yes.
Bueno, buenos días. Welcome, Valeria. I'm from Argentina as well. I was very impressed to meet you. I'm very excited to hear all about your passion and what you do. But I have noticed that you have moved since you were 16 years old. You didn't stop. And that is a lot of work. You are with the people. You looking. You are awake. You are talking. You're moving. You're learning, and I just want to say thank you. It's very motivated to hear someone that's doing that.
But a lot of the millennials, you look at them now, they're really, really doing the same thing. I mean, there's going to be no work like we've worked in the past. No one's going to have a contract and a job for a long time. Things are changing. The future of work looks like this. Looks like moving out and working for yourself, and working from the beach or from a little hole in the wall if you can, and being true and honest to what you're trying to do. I mean, they did a study recently that millennials are willing to take a pay cut and work for companies that are socially motivated more than working for the big corporations as always. So I think, we are in that time where people are, I'm very, very optimistic about the future because I have a lot of young people around me, and I'm just amazed at their way of looking at life. And it's so much more woke than what we were back then, So I think it's really good times. It's just that we just have to carry on pushing and not give up. But thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
Estoy muy inquieta, sí.
Don't you think that now we have to create our own possibilities? No, because before we just waiting for the possibility. No, you have to wait and be lucky and do your best. But now we can create our own possibility. No, we have to
just
be
like your Instagram page.
Exactly.
Like your Instagram page. So it's about that, right? And just not just visually creating but going out there. And today we have the possibility to do it. There's a great story that I was talk about treat change dolls. This is a woman out of Australia who was working as a government official, lost her job, was pregnant, husband left her, disaster. She's 35, didn't know what to do, couldn't find a job, goes back into the where her mum lived in a farm, and didn't know what to do, has the baby, and couldn't find nice dolls for her child, and because they were all looked like in production or whatever. So she goes to shops and picks up the leftover dolls, cleans them out with acetone, repaints them, dresses them differently, and starts posting those pictures for her daughter on social media. It's become such a thing. She's built such a business out of it that you can't believe, from the middle of nowhere. That's the amazing part of what we're at. Success is not going to happen tomorrow, and success actually may look, the most important thing to me, I think, is one, to stop and define success. What does success look like to you? Because don't listen to what they've told you what success is. Define what that is, and have that conversation with yourself and define, and it might change over a period of time, but always be in control. And yes, today you can do so many things yourself, which is amazing.
I think Javier has a question, right?
Yeah, thank you. Bueno, Kavita, as always, so inspiring. I mean,
Look who's talking.
everybody here, probably Kavita is one of the most special persons I've met in my life. And I must tell you something, what she told today is like 2% of what she has in her head. So it's like she could be telling more and more and more projects. Every time you see her, she has like another 15 projects in her head. So I would like to, can you talk us about your last project, the one you just told me at breakfast?
Oh, God. So SAS invited me 4 years ago to give a talk at FIT at a program she was running at summer school about sustainability. And so, I've always been passionate about artisan communities because I feel like that's a skill that already exists and how we can use that, how can we make it raise up. And the gentleman who spoke before me was a dyer from Japan. And he starts talking about dyes and how terribly toxic they are. And then, of course, at the end of his talk, he talks about black being the most horrible color. I wear a lot of black, like most people in fashion. So I was just like, oh, my Lord. And so I started to investigate, and I've spent the last 4 years absolutely obsessed with how can we do natural dyeing at a large scale. Whenever you go talk about this to anyone, everyone will tell you, oh, it's impossible. But the truth is, 70 years ago, all dyeing was done naturally around the globe. Yes, it's true, there was a lot less people, but hey, it was in the billions. And billions of people wore clothes that were naturally dyed. So I was like, there's got to be a way to do this in large scale. So I traveled all around, I have friends in Africa, friends around the world who are working with natural dyes, and no one had been able to take it to the next level. So we found a crazy chemist in Sabadell who'd been working on a project because he'd lived in Brazil, and now he's, after 2.5 years, managed to get natural dyeing to industrial level and industrial pricing. And the interesting part is he makes dyes out of leftovers from the agricultural industry. So I would go and visit him this last 2.5 years, and actually the truth is Levi's did give me some funding, and I've actually invested that funding in that, investigating in that project. And so we're trying to launch a men's underwear company that would be 100% natural dye, traced back to the farmer. So we're hoping that that's, it's been a lot of work, and I'm quite excited about it. And so if anyone's interested to do some hard work, come, call me. I'll tell you what to do, but I think it's going to be quite exciting. And I'm hoping to dethrone, to be the big underwear manufacturer in the world, to make, because the truth is you're putting that stuff on your naked body next to your most private parts, and you don't know how much chemicals it have and all the things that it's causing. So today we can do that at a good price point, so why not?
Great. Thank you. And women's, we have to taste it. Women, we prefer with natural, organic products.
Yes. Just men are easier targets.
Bueno, we have, one more question, please. Who has the microphone?
Oh, right here.
Yeah, please.
Sorry. I actually like the fact that you spoke about the actual wool and the sheep and how they're being, that you select. Have you gone there personally to see after the ones that you've decided to, which artisans to work with? Do you visit them afterwards to see that the sheeps are not being abused and that they're actually cutting their wool properly and not taking their skin or beating them?
We work with, normally with cooperatives and local people who come and approach us normally are people already way ahead of the game than I am. These are super activists nearly. So gentleman, for example, with whom I'm working on the Transhumancia project in Spain, he's actually starting a wool line to sell to people like Wool and the Gang, but coming all the way from. So normally it's quite amazing, but these are already people who are social activists in the area. And yes, I do travel a lot. And we do go there a lot. And we actually we give so much information to the consumer that we want the consumer to go there a lot. I don't pretend to have the perfect answer for anything. I think everything is a work in progress. I think we can make everything better, always. But what I think is we all need to be involved and be vocal. It's so easy to point fingers. It's so easy to criticize because it doesn't take anything more than few words. And on social media, you can even do it anonymously and say nasty stuff and get away with it because it doesn't cost anything. Whenever I hear someone ask Javier, like, whoa, why are you solving the problem? Like, the dude's cleaning up. Thank you. Yeah, if we solve the problem, we've got to solve the problem. We're the ones who are not supposed to use the plastic. He's doing the cleaning up. Thank him for that. So I know that our mentality is we want a perfect answer, and we know how to criticize, but we don't think about what can we do to make it better. And I think that's the approach we all as human beings have to be: more generous, more kind, and more demanding with ourselves.
Very good. I clap for that. Bravo. Brava, brava. Very good. Yes.
Hi, my name is Patricia. I'm from Italy, so the land of the artisans. What about the lack of style in the work of the artisan? Because this is a point. I mean, somebody thinks that artisan with no design is no fashion. So are designers involved with artisan in the process of doing very one-of-a-kind things? Thank you.
That's kind of one of the parts of why I'm so keen to build a Wikipedia, because the problem with the industry right now is that the designers are working with industry, they're not working with artisans. So what happens is there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in industrial design, but the artisanal design has just been like centuries old and it hasn't been updated, and a lot of times it's not culturally relevant. And that's a reason why maybe someone today doesn't feel cool about wearing something that is, was designed a few centuries ago. So that's kind of what we want to do with the Wikipedia, and why I'm so open about it, is that, put the designers to work back with the artisans and have that one-on-one equal footing. The problem with the industry is the way it works, it's so fast. It's very hard for industry to go out there and develop, artisan relationships and find them. And, there's the example I showed you of Chanel, which is a true example. And Chanel actually apologized, and, Karl Lagerfeld gave a lot of money to the Faroe Islands. Same case with Isabel Marant. So I don't think these are companies that are really trying to rip anyone off. It's just the system they're in doesn't allow them to have the time to work with the designer, with the artisan. So that's kind of what we try and promote with the Wikipedia, is I'm giving you access to the artisan. Go there, have a conversation, and it enriches it. It makes it better for everyone. Case with IOU, art comes first. It was an amazing thing for both sides. For the artisans to do the madras in just a colorway that's very sophisticated, which they'd never done before, and for art comes first to work with a material that was, they'd never used before. So it's an enriching dialogue conversation, but someone needs to do the dirty work, which is to build the Wikipedia, and I'm up for it.
Well, thank you very much, Kavita. Thank you very much. Ciao.